All right, I will get us started for today while some folks continue to trickle in. Thank you so much for joining us today for our ChatGPT Beyond the Basics event. My name is Haley. I am the administrative coordinator here at Smart Dolphins, and I'll be here to answer any questions that I can during our session today. Before we get started with ChatGPT, I'd like to talk about a couple of our upcoming events in February and March. So on February 22nd, we are doing a SharePoint, Teams, and Power Apps event. So register online for that if you'd like. And then on February 29th at 11 a.m., we are doing a Cybersecurity Critical Fundamentals event. And then on March 7th, an introduction to Microsoft Power BI. So those are all up on our website now, so you're welcome to pre-register for those, and hopefully we'll see you then. If you have any questions today during the session, please feel free to pop those into the Zoom chat, and we'll try our best to tackle those as we go along. If there's anything outside of the realm of ChatGPT, we can always hold on to those for the end of today's session. If you'd like, there is also a PDF handout in the chat. Feel free to download that and follow along. Okay, awesome. Everything aside, I'd like to introduce Jolyn Reen, our instructor for today. It is an honor to introduce Jolyn. She has been teaching Microsoft apps and all that good stuff since they were first released. She's a certified trainer and instructor with over 30 years of experience. Thank you, Jolyn. Please take it away.
Thanks, Haley, and welcome everybody to our ChatGPT session. The topic today is really kind of taking the prompts a little bit further than your basic searches. So we want to talk about some advancements and some different features that we have available in ChatGPT. So starting out, if you want to make sure that if you have ChatGPT already, make sure that you do have it open if you want to give some things a try as we go through. I am using the Plus version of ChatGPT. I'll explain that in a moment. But if you do go ahead and download that practice file out of the chat window, as Haley was mentioning, you can use that to follow along. It's also a good reference tool for you to have for later if you want to refer back to it. But I want to start out by just talking about what exactly is ChatGPT. So when it comes to ChatGPT, it is an AI application, which is a generative pre-trained transformer, is basically what that GPT part of it relates to. But what it is built to do, it's been trained that as we type in prompts, questions to the computer, it will automatically return a human-like response. So it's pretty cool how we can kind of have a conversation back and forth with this app called ChatGPT. If you are kind of new to it, just to give you an idea as to why should you be using ChatGPT, it is crazy the different things I am currently using ChatGPT for. And you'll see some examples of that here today. But it's a great communication tool. It can enhance your productivity. It can give educational support. It's my creative assistant for sure, but it can be a technical aid as well. As a matter of fact, I had to use it to figure out what was wrong with the way I was trying to put in my new hinges for my kitchen cabinets. I didn't know how to install them and it didn't come with instructions. So my first thought on anything these days is go to ChatGPT. So I did. And it gave me corresponding links of information to get into further details based on the response that I got, which gave me some YouTube videos to watch, which was great. But it also can be used as a cost-effective resource. I use it for language translation and different things as well. So there's a lot of reasons why you're going to be using ChatGPT. But when it comes to the different versions of ChatGPT, starting on page 1 of your handout, if you just sign up with ChatGPT, if you're brand new to it, you go to the user interface or go to their website, you create your account, that's going to be the free version of ChatGPT, which is based on the 3.5 version. When it was first released, which is crazy, it's only been a little over a year. When it was first released, we had a 3.0, so now it's at 3.5 once they released it to the public. But if you have the paid for version, that by default is GPT-4. There is really kind of new versions coming out here very shortly that are in beta testing. There is the enterprise version, which is available as of today for organizations. They can be using multiple people can have an account with the enterprise version. So if your organization wants to take advantage of that, otherwise the paid for version that I'm using right now, that 4.0 version for Plus is what it's called, that is $20 a month. Otherwise, there's different packages you can get with the enterprise. You would want to look that up to know what yours would end up costing. But there's also a new feature within our current ChatGPT 4, which I'll show you where you can access this, but it's actually called ChatGPT Team. So on page 2 of your handout, it gives you some more information of upgrading your account to the team version. If you want to do it as a monthly, well, I'm sorry, the $20 version of the Plus is $20 a month, but Team is allowing us to pay monthly or by paying upfront. If you want to pay upfront for a full year, you'll pay $25 a month. But if you want to pay it month to month, it would be $30 a month. So what you're seeing, the screenshot on page 2 is a screenshot from my screen, really just showing you what you're going to see when you first go into updating. I'll show you where that is in case you want to do that. I'm going to do it. I just didn't want to do it too close to this class in case it changes things on my screen. I wanted to wait until after this class was done. And I had a couple of other GPT classes. So once I have more time, I'll kind of tackle that and have that available for another class. But I gave you some additional information on the team part of this. You can have 2 users with the team version or more, but by default you do get 2, but it's going to be capable of you creating workspaces. You can use workspaces to organize the information that you are chatting about. So for me, it would be if I'm working on a specific project, I'm a project manager, and if I have certain things that I'm going to be working on, and maybe I have my project coordinator that I'm going to have as my second user, we would then have that capability of creating a workspace that the 2 of us can be in together, and we can then be chatting or using ChatGPT is what I meant to be able to analyze information for that specific project. So it can be more topic specific if you wanted to. But I did give you a little bit extra information on that because you can have multiple workspaces and things like that. How many people can be in the workspace? It depends on your licensing, of course, but for organizations with 150 or more members, you definitely want to be considering using the enterprise version. But you can see that you can add and remove team members. Going over to page 3 of your handout, I gave you some additional information on that and a couple of screenshots to get you started with understanding what you're going to see when you go in. But there is another feature that I wanted to mention that is available in ChatGPT. So when I'm here in my ChatGPT 4, which is, as I said, the Plus version, we still have the navigation pane on the left-hand side, but there's been some recent updates. As recent as the beginning of February here, there's been some, of course, changes, which happens in all of our apps, of course. But what you're going to see at the bottom left of the navigation pane is you have this new icon called Add Team Workspace. If you click on that, that's where you're going to see what I shared with you in your handout. So if I wanted to add Team Workspace, I could update my account. Just so you know that that's available at the bottom left. So other things that are different or new is at the top left of your navigation. On the top left, you now have Explore GPTs. So at the bottom of page 3, going to page 4, it talks about GPTs in ChatGPT. You can use custom versions of ChatGPT. So these are like add-ins that we can be using, additional features that we can be using. So it's really expanded quite advancedly and very quickly, having all these different things that we can be utilizing through our GPT. So as you can see at the top, it says discover and create new versions of GPT to combine instructions, extra knowledge, or any combination of skills. And there's some ones that they have in this featured. There's some trending ones that are available here, ones that are created directly from ChatGPT themselves, and the Dolly, which we'll talk about, the writing options, productivity. So it's got all these different categories of different things that you can be utilizing. It is shocking how fast this has gone, how crazy on, I hear people talking about it all the time using ChatGPT. So it's not something that, only a few people in the world are using. This is definitely something that has exploded. As I've talked about in previous sessions, it's grew quicker than most things like Twitter and whatever. Those took years to get to 1 million. ChatGPT only took a month or so. And now, of course, we've well exceeded that. So anyway, when it comes to using that ChatGPT, there is a builder option that you have available. And then there is a new version of ChatGPT that is in preview, and it's called GPT-4 Turbo. There's some things that Microsoft or ChatGPT AI is working on, but of course they're always updating, so it's a continuous learning for this system. And this turbo version is going to have information all the way up to April of 23. So by leaps and bounds, and pretty soon, of course, it will probably be perfectly matched with today's world. Now, of course, there's things we can use, which we'll get to in a minute, that we can use to be using current information. Excuse me. But by default, the original date was the 2021 is when everything was programmed up to that point. But now we'll have this turbo version, which it has some other advances to it as well. But for right now, we'll just kind of mention the fact that that will be available, and it will be current up to April of 2023. So look forward to seeing that here very shortly. I'm super excited about that because otherwise I use a lot of other features within ChatGPT. But let me go ahead and jump back into ChatGPT. So I just went to my top left and clicked back on ChatGPT instead of being in the Explore GPT. But what you're going to see is they made a little bit of changes to the user interface. What used to be in the middle of the window has been moved to the left-hand side where it says the ChatGPT 4. If you click on that drop down for the ChatGPT 4, you can see that if I wanted to go back to the 3.5 version, I could just go ahead and click that. But I have it automatically using the Dolly browsing and analysis option, where we are limited by default in this version to 40 messages within 3 hours. I'm actually going to use that here today. I'll explain more of what that is related to towards the end of the session. But I also wanted to talk about plugins. So from this drop down, if you click plugins, it's going to show you any of your active plugins next to that ChatGPT plugins. And so right now I'm on the plugins category. And basically, if these are the two that I have active right now, Weather and Expedia, if I click on the drop down, I can see that those two are my active. And I also have Kayak that if I wanted to turn it on, I could. But let me talk about what plugins are, because they can certainly help with the way that you generate the information back out of ChatGPT. So if I click the plugin store, it has different categories up at the top, or you can just search if you know the name of a plugin. But I struggle with knowing the name of the plugin because the name doesn't always direct me to what it does, because it might have lots of things that plugin does. But just like a plugin for any other application, what these plugins are for is when we go to talk and do a conversation with ChatGPT. I say that so many times in 2 minutes. But what it's going to do is automatically use the plugin. So if I look for information that is travel related, it's going to utilize the Expedia add-in, the plugin that I have available. Or if I'm looking up weather, asking specific weather, like if I want to know what the weather is in June in Wisconsin or whatever the case would be, it's actually using the weather app to give me that current accurate information. Well, as accurate as we can possibly be. Because weather is one of those things that, just like ChatGPT, it may not give you exactly what you're looking for. But I highly recommend looking through these. A lot of times I go to the popular category because they kind of keep track of what are people using a lot. So this is giving us several different, you can see down below, we have several different pages of different options that we could look at. So you can just kind of scan through those. If you go to the all category, look how many different pages of options you have. When I first started with this, I can't even remember what the number was. It was 100, but very close to 100. Now it's up to 129 different pages of different plugins that are available. Everybody's developing plugins right now for ChatGPT. So they can assist you with finding the current information related to specific topics. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. Up at the top left here where it currently says that ChatGPT plugins, I'm going to go ahead and choose my ChatGPT 4. So that's going to be active so that I can start using ChatGPT. So what you're going to see under page 4, under the topic of ChatGPT features, recently they've made, of course, changes to things. By default, I am using my ChatGPT 4 because I have that plus version. But in the middle of the window, we now are getting prompt examples. So if you're not quite sure of something that you want to look up, here's some examples of things that you could use. So if I want to brainstorm content ideas, I can do that. Haley, did somebody have a question?
Hi, Jolene. Yes, we
Hi.
do. Lorinda's asking if the free 3.5 version is going to be updated for information up to April 2023 as well.
No. No, I don't think that they're going to update it right away, especially right away to the April 2023. I know that that's always a little bit behind. They kind of want people to get to the newest versions, the latest versions instead. So I don't
Thank you.
know what the exact date will be if they do that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, the free version is okay, but I used to have it, I couldn't get in because everybody that's using free, there's only so many spots for people to get in. And it was worth it for me to upgrade to the plus. Plus, you get additional features that 3.5 does not give you. But
Definitely.
yeah. But I do like having these prompt examples. I wasn't quite sure if it would be beneficial to me or not, but I definitely like them. So we also, of course, can have several different files be uploaded as well, and then we can have the computer analyze that data by using that green square over on the bottom right. You also have this gears icon at the bottom of the screen. If you click on that, it takes you into the file uploader settings. So general settings, the chunk size, the overlap size, the different file types that are available that we can actually upload and have it analyze data, different prompts. There's zip files settings that we can use, and then it's got the about. So what version are you actively using? So just so you know, that's available at the bottom right. Also, I like to point out in every session that we do, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Consider checking important information. So before you take that information and tell people that this is what I got out of ChatGPT, just do it fact checking and make sure that the information that you did get out of it is accurate. Of course, with the new turbo version that's coming out, it's probably going to be a lot more accurate as well. Every time we have a new update, it does become more and more accurate, just so you kind of keep that in the back of your mind, which is always great to know. But also on page 5, it talks about custom instructions. With our topic of prompts today, understanding custom instructions is going to be extremely helpful because it allows you to actually provide information to ChatGPT. So as an example, if you go to the bottom left of the navigation pane on the left-hand side and click on your profile, what you're going to get is a pop-up menu where you can access your plan, your account with them. You can go into My GPTs, which are the custom GPTs that you have created. You can also go into the settings. And the settings is important to go into because you can change your theme if you want to. You can archive your chats. There's going to be some new things with memory coming too, but you could delete all your chats. So the chats all on the left-hand side. If you want to get rid of those, you can delete those. But also you want to check out the beta features. Make sure that plugins is actually turned on because it's still considered a beta feature. I don't know why it's still considered a beta feature. It's been around for a very long, it's been around for a while now. But otherwise, you have your data controls where you can work with your links. You can export data. You can even delete your account if you decide you want to do that. But then we have this profile builder, which I do have some information in your handout about this builder. But the builder is related to your personal information. Personalize your builder profile to connect with users of GPT. These settings apply to publicly shared GPTs. So you could put in your name, of course, you could put in your web address, and then you can be connected with other people in the world of GPT. But I'm going to go back to my profile again at the bottom left, and I'm going to go into customize GPT. This is where we can actually provide more information to the program about ourselves. I'll talk about that with prompts here in a moment as well. But you can see it's asking you questions and then you can provide the answers to those. So what would you like ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses? And then it also has on the bottom, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? I have chosen, just as an example for class purposes, I have 30 years experience working in project management. I could put information about Microsoft apps and whatever else, just so that it understands a little bit about me. And then how I want it to respond. If you click within that area down below, it actually gives you thought starters, which is really good when we have something like this. It's because, like, I don't know what I should put in there. Well, you could ask ChatGPT if you wanted, but that thought starters, how formal or casual do you want it to be? How long or short do you want the responses to be? How do you want to be addressed? So it can give you, you can add in all that information. And then I'm just going to cancel because I didn't make any changes and I'm not going to save those. But if you have not done that yet, 100% you should definitely do that. So the instructions to get in that is on page 5. And then there's the information about the plugins that I've already mentioned. But first, make sure that you have that in beta. Slide the button over to make sure that the plugins are available for you. That's going to be the key. You can't use them if they're not available. Okay. And then, of course, managing your chats, which starts on the top of page 7, is referring to on the left-hand side. It is categorizing your chats now, like I have today, yesterday, previous 30 days, that kind of a thing. You don't need to keep everything. If it's not going to be something you're going to refer back to, there's new ways to manage things. So once again, they've made some changes to this, and so we don't need to kind of work real hard to manage things. But if I have something over on my list of my history, if I hesitate on it, on the topic, if I need to rename it or I want to delete it and things like that, you can go to the more category on the right-hand side. So they've made changes to how this looks. Used to have a pencil there and a delete icon. Now we can click on that drop down and access the share, the rename, and the delete chat. If you choose to share this chat, which of course with team chats, it'll be a little bit different on the sharing capability now, but you can always go in and share that chat. So if you want to share that, I click copy link and I email it to people. I have put it out on my OneNote notebooks. That's where I probably use it the most, but I've put it in a chat before through Microsoft Teams. I've emailed it, but very common for me, I'm actually putting that link. So anybody that wants to access it through that OneNote notebook, whoever it's shared with, they have access to that link. So they can access this exact same chat that I had with ChatGPT. So I like the sharing capabilities. A little bit of that is going to change. If you look at the bottom of page 7, well, not really going to page 8, I guess, just at the bottom of page 7, they're testing memory with ChatGPT. So we're going to be able to say, remember this, ChatGPT, or you can forget this, ChatGPT. We're basically going to be able to tell it if we want it to remember the information. So some of the things that might be helpful is, if you changed that you don't want the responses to be professional, you want to say you want it for right now, you want to change it to be more of a casual conversation. You will be able to tell ChatGPT that you want your responses to be more casual. So we're going to be able to do different things with it. So if we want it to remember certain aspects, it's going to be pretty cool. It's amazing how fast this program is growing and the additional features that are being added to it. I never thought, just within a year for it to just explode. It's kind of crazy. But if you're going to be wanting to get appropriate prompts out of the system, we need to understand, of course, how ChatGPT works. The more we feed it, of course, the better the responses we will get. On page 8, it talks about understanding ChatGPT. So the way that it is programmed in the background, it's using this large language model, this LLM, this large language model that it looks for what it can predict based on if you say something, it's going to predict what should come next. So it looks through this ginormous database that if we start typing something in, it starts to kind of work with us and understand what we're saying and what we're trying to get out of it. So it has this ginormous background to it, that it has all this information that typically if you say this word, it's going to come back with this. Like the example that I have there, for instance, given the input the sun is, it's going to predict that the next word would be shining or rising, typical things that we would use with the sun is. So we have to, really kind of stop and think about that in a more general sense for most people, but how it actually works in the background. I gave you some information on the prompt engineering side of things, which, by the way, if you go to your favorite internet browser and look these up, it is shocking how many examples you will be able to find of good prompts. But I kind of picked some of them that I felt were most relevant that I wanted to share with you in your handout. So kind of having a good understanding as to how GPT works will help you with your prompting. So it's talking about this foundation of ChatGPT prompt engineering, which is the art of crafting the prompt itself, the effective instruction that it's taking as its input so it knows what to give as the output. So it's got this prompt engineering behind it. People didn't really, when it first came out, we weren't really talking about that. We were just talking about how the program works in general, kind of the whatever, the elementary type side of it. And now they're really diving into the engineering side of how the prompts actually work. So it's talking about that starting point. So let's assume we want GPT 4.0 to generate a brief data analysis report. We could start the prompt with provide data analysis report. Well, is that enough information for it to really provide the response that we really want to get out of it? Probably not. So we want to know what types of things are going to be best used. What type of information should we give it? Because if we're very general in what we're asking it, what we're prompting, we're going to get general back. And then we have to piece through it. And sometimes when I first started, I would end up asking this, and then I'd have to clarify, then I'd have to clarify, then I'd have to clarify and change it a little bit. And pretty soon it's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I need to learn how to start my prompt better and then keep that conversation going within one chat. Don't switch topics, which I was trying to do that before, and then it was confused. So the whole conversation that you're having in a new chat, like topic together, it's one big conversation on the same subject. Where what I used to try and do is, I didn't want to do a new one every single time. I thought I could just continue talking with it, but it was still remembering what I was talking about from the beginning. So starting a new chat for all new topics so that the organization of your data on the left-hand side is going to be smarter as well. So it gets into a little bit about what is ChatGPT prompt engineering, referring to the practice of that input that we're getting so that we make sure we get the right output. Why is it important? It's important so that we get a good response. Whatever you get in, you're going to get back out. And that's the same with everything that we refer to, databases, Excel spreadsheets, whatever the case is. So what are some tips for effective GPT prompt engineering? Be specific. If the prompt is vague, the model may not provide the desired answer. The income has to be good for the outcome. Use the right format. If I wanted to give me a poem, say you want a poem. Don't just give a general and say, write something about this. If you want it to be in a poem format, you have to provide it with that. It can't do what it doesn't understand. Ask for the reasoning. I never used to do this. So if you want to understand the model's reasoning or you want more detailed response, you have to ask for it. And we can even say, where did this information come from? So it can provide you with websites or links so that you can get into where that information was actually pulled from. Crazy that at the beginning, we didn't even think about that. It's like, oh, this is just coming out of the system. I didn't even think about asking it for the reasoning or, where did this information generate from? Where can I refer to more information on this? So we need to take advantage of what it actually does do. Okay. So ambiguous prompts, how does ChatGPT handle those? It tries best to, kind of figure out what it is that we're giving it for information, but the responses may not always align with what we are assuming it's going to give us for an output. So we need to make sure that the prompts are appropriate for what it is that you need to get the response of. And I'll give you a few examples here in a minute, but I really, this is a lot of discussion because of the fact that we really need to stop and think about what we're going to type in. Otherwise, we waste time. And I don't like wasting time. 15 minutes, you can get a lot done. Well, if I'm just kind of testing it and trying to figure out how it's going to give me the right answer, I'd rather understand it, then go in and use it than I would trying to figure it out myself. So there's some principles of effective prompt engineering. Clarity, huge. I mean, I didn't really think about this in the past. Tell me about dogs. Well, that's a lot. That's an open-ended question. We need to give it more information, provide a detailed description of the characteristics, the behavior, the care required for domestic dogs. Just providing more so that we can get better responses back out. The context, translate the following English text to French. We want to give it more clarity. What information do we want it really to provide for us? Do we want it just to translate what we said or put it into the French language? Because of course, masculine, feminine, we've got all these different things are written differently in different languages. That if we give it to it one way and it translate it back, it might be backwards on the way that it actually comes out. 4 years of French did not give me enough, by the way. I understand that from people in Canada. You have a lot of French speaking. And I thought 4 years of French was going to help me, but it did not. I need to have ChatGPT take me back and teach me. But the precision, prompts yield precision responses. For example, if you want to list specific, ask for it. List the top 10 most popular countries in the world. Popular in what? Or populous, I'm sorry. Populous in what? People? Types of people? What exactly are we looking for? Females, males, whatever. We need to make sure that we're giving it that information. So ChatGPT, of course, we want to a lot of times ask it to help us figure out something. We want it to help us create something, whether it's going to be blogs, social media posts, LinkedIn posts. I use it for all of those and several more. But when we talk about what exactly is a prompt, the prompt is going to actually be the conversation that we're having it, the phrase or the instructions we're actually giving to ChatGPT. That's in a nutshell what it is. The prompt engineering is the way that it's looking for that response, looking in that large language model and figuring out what kind of a response should I be giving it. So I want to walk through a couple of good prompts, bad prompts, and kind of give you an idea as to, how can you really get the best out of this. I've got a few more going over to page 9, 10 in your handout, how to ask good questions, prompts in ChatGPT. Let's actually do a couple of examples with this. So as an example, here, let me do a LinkedIn one that I recently did. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in a new one. So on the right-hand side, I don't have a previous conversation going on because it's a brand new topic. I'm just going to copy and paste some information, or of course I could physically type it in, but I'm asking it, create an article on LinkedIn automation. If I just send that message or press enter to send that message, that's pretty generic that I'm asking it, what I'm asking it. So it's not going to give me probably what it is that I'm looking for. And this is what we used to do when we first started with ChatGPT. We were very general, not understanding that, yes, it's giving us this wonderful information, but is it the information that we were really looking for? What I think I thought, what I think I thought at the very beginning was, I thought it was going to just read my mind, I think. So I realized very quickly on that it's not reading my mind. It's only going to be available to give me the response back based on what I provided it. And for some reason in the back of my mind, I think I really did think that it was going to give me everything. So look at all this detail that it's giving me. Not exactly probably what I want. If I wanted something very general, that might be okay. But let me word this a little bit differently. So I originally said, create an article on LinkedIn automation. I'm going to actually expand on that because that's what we really should be doing. So let me go ahead and paste this in. I'm telling it about myself. I run a LinkedIn marketing and outreach agency targeting funded startups. I I want you to create a sales proposal focusing on the specific needs and pain points for lead generation. But give me the outline first. Don't create the full thing. Focus there on their objectives and how to overcome them. So if that's really what I'm looking for, I'm going to give all that detail. So if you kind of break this apart, I've got an image in your handout here that I'll mention here in a minute, but we want to really kind of think about how to kind of segment what it is that we want it to give us. So I'm going to be giving it this more information. I'm going to click send message, and it's going to narrow it down to give me more specific response because I gave it more information. So it's, creating a sales proposal for your LinkedIn marketing outreach agency. It's directing it exactly to what it is that I gave it for the prompt. So it has been such a godsend to really stop and think about how I was using this application and how wrong I was using it, that now I am stopping to, and most of the time I'm thinking about it beforehand. I'm kind of very analytical that way. And I open up a Word document or whatever, and I start typing out, this is what I really want to get out of it. And I think about, is it me, or do I want it to be directed to a specific type of person? What exactly is the content that I want it to provide me back? Whatever. You want to kind of piece it together so that it's being given the right information. So it automatically is giving me all this information that is now directly related. And I do a lot of comparisons of this is what it gave me with this. This is what it gave me with this. What did I piece out of each of those good and bad prompts that I did? So another example of this would be, because I do a lot of marketing, I do it with a lot of marketing stuff, but I'll give you another example here. If I say I want to create a post about productivity as an example, I'll just create a new chat and I'm going to copy and paste this in, or of course, just physically type it. I'm going to press enter. Oh, I got an internal error. That's ChatGPT. Sorry. So create a post about productivity. It's just very generic and it's going to give me some good information. And it's not that I maybe won't use some of this information, but the more I give it, the better the response is going to be. So if I go in and I say this as a prompt instead, let me have that one get done here. It's giving me tons of information. So originally I had said, create a post about productivity. I'm just going to put in create a LinkedIn post under 200 words about the importance of productivity and time management for small business owners. So who is this going to be provided to? Of course, if I wanted to provide who am I going to give this to? Who is this information going to be directed to? Because is it going to be directed to a group of, high school students? I need to make sure that I'm telling the person. Yes, I do feel like it's my best friend sometimes. Um, I have to keep remembering it is software, but I don't know if you get that way with your GPS in your car and stuff too. But anyway, if I put this in, it's going to narrow down the response to be more related to what I was really trying to get out of it. So sometimes when I'm, kind of figuring out this is what I need to ask it, sometimes I put it in separate rows. And let me show you what I mean by that. In your handout, let me find where that is. I'll come back to a couple of these other topics, but I should have put that image. The image is actually on page 13. ChatGPT prompt formula. It really is a formula. So you can zoom in on that example if you want to, where it's giving the context, the task, the instruction, and the clarify. So we refine the prompt to match those so that we're giving it the right information. So this is where sometimes I'm going to take what I want it to provide me and I'm going to separate it out when I'm in my Word document or wherever. I'm going to have a separate line for each of those so that I make sure that I'm giving it the full information that it really needs to be able to give me that correct output. It's always about the input and the output. But I want to go back up to where I kind of left off in the handout, and then I'll do a couple more examples to kind of show you that. But back on page 10 actually is where I was at the time. How to ask good questions and prompts, be clear, be concise, avoid ambiguous language, direct the style, the tone. So what kind of an answer do I want? Do I want it to be very professional? Do I want it to be casual? Do I want it to be funny? What exactly do I want? The best prompts for ChatGPT include lots of background and supplementary information, which could be the details of who you are and what you do, a profile of the audience you're trying to reach with the generated output, so whatever you're getting out of it, feedback on what you did and didn't like about previous iterations. So if I was continuing the conversation, you can remove this, but add this type of a thing. Specify such a response word count, tone of voice, and format. I'm going to be using this for a social media post on Facebook, LinkedIn, just give it that information as to what you're going to do with it. So helpful phrases for your prompts. There is a bulleted list of these helpful phrases on page 10 and 11. Act like my boss, act like my college professor, be my, I need help with, so kind of look through those and think about when you go to create your prompt, kind of look back at this list and see which ones, and you can use multiples, of course, to help get you started with creating that, piece by piece prompt that you should be using. Types of prompts, open-ended prompts, specific prompts, conditional prompts, those are described there for you as well. I won't read through those for you, but just one instance on these specific prompts. If I just say, what is the capital of France? It's going to respond a straightforward answer. But if I really meant to get more information about the capital of France, I have to tell it that, what is the capital of France? But I also, here's the specific information that I need to get out of it. We need to really think further on what our initial thought process is. Okay. So I want to talk about crafting effective prompts, which is on page 12, setting the clear objectives. in project management, that's our first step, of course, with writing our scope statement is we need to know what the objective is. Well, ChatGPT doesn't understand the objective. We have to give it the objective. And then using the context and the instructions, kind of a little bit more information on what I was referring to earlier. And then experimenting with variations so you could see that trial and error, because that's how we learn. And definitely for me, that has really helped me, because if I ask something very general, then I have to come back and make it a little bit more specific, continue to make it more specific. So kind of follow that formula that I have listed there. And then identity prompts. So acting as a legal expert, what are some pain points law firms use in marketing, whatever. Acting as an FBI hostage negotiator. You're a head content marketer of a proven agency, giving it that information right away up front. I'm a novice in VBA programming with 10 years experience in Excel or whatever your case is, and then putting in what it is that you need to get out of it, so that the response is going to come back knowing who you are or knowing who the party is that you're doing that for. And then if you prompt mistakes to avoid, I like the first sentence I wrote there, ChatGPT prompting can be a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for us, but I don't want to waste time either. And I don't want to waste time, trying to figure something out. That doesn't work in my day. So understanding all these different topics is going to really help to make sure that you are using the correct beginning to get the correct output. So I'll let you go ahead and read through more of that here. I want to do more examples with you instead. So let me go back and do a couple more examples here, just to kind of let you know. So I'm going to do one that's going to be customer service related. I'm going to start a brand new topic here. And I'm just going to say how to provide good customer service. So that to me is very important to understand. So if I send that message to ChatGPT, the response that I'm going to get is going to be good. Actually, I've used, similar to this where, understand the customer's need, respond promptly, et cetera, which, yes, I would probably use a lot of this information. But did I give it everything that it should have? So when I talk about providing good customer service, who am I providing that customer service to? Where do I work? What is it that I do? What type of service am I providing? It's not going to give me anything that is directly related to that. And that's the problem that I had with ChatGPT. So I would say things like how to provide good customer service. And I was expecting it to give me, the answers I thought I needed. So let me go ahead and rephrase this. So what I'm going to do is let me copy and paste this over. How to provide good customer service to novice users of computers if I work at the help desk of Best Buy. It's crazy to me how different the response is that I will get if I provide additional information. Okay. I could say that I am the, frontline customer service person. I am the extended, advanced customer service. I have to give them more information so that I get the correct information back. So I love this. It was exactly what I was looking for originally. But if I gave it generic, it's going to give me generic. So now it's giving me the things that are really going to help me hone in. So use layman's terms. Not everybody thinks about that, because if they're an expert in computers, they tend to talk that way. So if they're a technician, they talk like a technician. They don't think about how it's being received by the other person. So just to help us to understand, demonstrate patience and empathy, offer hands-on demonstrations. A lot of people need that when we're talking about help desk. Provide step-by-step instructions, so having a guide for them to actually take in hand as well. Do follow-ups, check back with the person, make sure everything is okay, everything worked the way that we expected. Do they have any further questions? That kind of thing. Empower with resources, the educational material, workshops. As a matter of fact, providing the classes so that if we get a lot of people asking the same things, we could go back and actually develop a class related to it because it seems to be a very popular topic. So things to think about. Simplifying choices, visual aids, foster confidence. It's giving me exactly what I really should have gotten in the first place. So make sure that you're giving it the right information. And another example that I wanted to show you as well, and I never ever thought about this. And I was telling Haley before we got started with the class that I struggled with this class today because I could have wrote 50 pages of this is how I used to say it. Here's a good example of how to rearrange it. I mean, there's just so many things that we can put into this. To do this in 1 hour is difficult because I want to say, oh, well, what about this? And you really can try it this way. And, there's just so many things that are going to be included in it. But for me, it's one thing. For you, it can be another. So just some examples of different things. I want to do this with you. I'm going to start a new chat and never thought about doing this. I'm going to tell the computer to limit the responses to questions we ask about Elon Musk's view on whatever the subject is. Never ever thought about doing something like this. So I'm going to put in limit responses to any questions we ask about Elon Musk's view of whatever my subject is. So I'm starting with that. And it says, I understand I can assist you today regarding Elon's responses, how he might view this. So, of course, if I go back and I ask ChatGPT anything about rockets, electric vehicles, he understands that. So it's going to be based on, exactly that topic. But what if we ask him about something that isn't his forte? If I ask him about baking a cake or uh, about a pizza or, anything outside of his normal, so if I ask him to explain electric vehicles, if I say explain electric vehicles as if I were a teenager, it's going to take his point of view and give us the answer based on that because he's an expert in that area. So, because that's what he does. So it's going to give it based on being a response to a teenager, or I could have said a 5-year-old or whatever the case would be. But if I give it a topic that is not really what Elon Musk does, like a pizza example, um, tell us about pizza. I'm going to get a totally different response because how is that going to come from a person like Elon Musk? So pizza is a beloved dish worldwide. It's going to be things related to what he's talking about. So just some things to be kind of going back and thinking about. So anyway, lots of different examples can be used. And I think it's something that you just need to go back and kind of test for yourselves to see, if I say it this way, what kind of a response do I get? But if I tweak it and give it a little bit more, am I going to get a better response? Sometimes the answer is going to be no. I always hate to say no, but, sometimes you're not going to get it anything better depending on what the topic is. But break it down. Write it out first. If you're really serious about wanting to get something out of it, make sure you're giving the right information to it. So lots of different choices can happen there. You want to really kind of break down what you really are trying to get out of it. So I could give you a million different examples, but of course you can always go to your favorite internet browser and look them up yourselves. So I won't continue to give you those, but I do want to go back to the handout and talk about some other information that I did provide. And when it comes to, kind of the overseeing specific uses of the instruction that we give the computer, you know, it's really kind of a matter of, who are you? What information do they need to know about the recipient? What information do they need to know about what you want summarized or whatever the case might be? Put it in those steps. Okay. So, anyway, the last things that I want to talk about is also included with, of course, ChatGPT is the DALI 3 starting on page 16. This again can help you to generate, like if you wanted to generate a new logo, it can actually use the features within the DALI 3 to help you generate that. And once again, the more we give it, the more we're going to get back out of it. So if I wanted to have it generate an image that was for a logo for a coffee company or whatever, we can provide it that information, but we want to make sure that we're getting the correct information back. Because, like, if I just say, create an image that is uh, of an orange cat, it's going to give you an image of an orange cat, but what specifically is about that orange cat. We want to make sure that we're providing enough information so that it knows what kind of a cat we want it to be. Or if I'm going to do coffee, let's say I have a new coffee shop and I want to ask ChatGPT to create a logo or a slogan that goes along with it. We can actually ask it those types of things. So under the category of your business case uses, there's some 4 examples. I put the coffee one in there because I've done that. I had a customer of mine that was, starting with going to be opening a new coffee shop. And they said, how should I get started with, do you know somebody in marketing, that kind of a thing? And I said, have you ever tried ChatGPT? So we started using it to kind of do some brainstorming. So I had asked ChatGPT to create a logo and a slogan for a new coffee shop. And then we can have it give us, what names, if we wanted to help us with naming our coffee shop or whatever the case might be, the more you provide it again, the more you're going to get back out of it. So I'm not sure if anybody is currently using ChatGPT to generate images, but I gave you the instructions on that going all the way to page 17. And then also taking advantage of uploading files and then having it analyze that information. Let me go back to a previous. Oh, here was the coffee shop, by the way. Let me scroll back up here. This was, one I just did as a test. I asked ChatGPT to come up with 5 sophisticated names for my coffee shop that becomes a bar at night, like the page turner. Include a short sentence explaining what you mean. And it came back with these examples. And what I said was create a logo for number 2. So it knew number 2 was the caffeine to cocktails, which I love that idea. I think that's so clever. And so here's the logo that it ended up generating for me. And it gave me a description as to, why it did that. And then I asked it, who would be our customers? Well, that in itself is very generic, and it gave me a generic answer. So then I changed it and said, we are located in a large city in the business district. Who might be our customers? And it narrowed it down a lot better. So I did similar things like this with my client. So I wanted to kind of share that with you so you had an idea of what that was. But also, here's an example of uploading information. So I took this data, copied and pasted, and I said, who had the highest sales? I could also upload a file and ask questions as well. So let ChatGPT do the work for us instead of us trying to translate things. Okay. Haley, did someone have a question?
Not at the moment. No, we're just coming up to 12 o'clock. So I just wanted to put it out
Yes.
there to see if anyone did have any questions.
Yes.
Otherwise, thank you for the great session, Jolyn. I do love how
Absolutely.
is it DALI? They're not so great
Hallie.
with
Yeah.
spelling, are they, when you ask
No.
it to write logos? So you
No.
have to take the ideas, I guess, and bring that somewhere,
And
perhaps.
I've had to go back and say, use this name,
Yes.
and it still messed it up on some of them. It transformed the words, the letters,
Yes.
I should say. And so I know that, and because I looked it up, it's like, why is this transposing my letters? And so I looked it up, and they know that that was an issue. So I don't know if they've got it fixed now. I should go back and test it.
Yes, be fun to test around. Yeah, it's so many
Yeah,
great things here.
it's
All
crazy
right.
what we can do with this. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, I find myself in there more and more these days just for some inspiration and some starting points, some starting
oh,
blocks, get creative.
exactly. And I'm not very creative, so this is super exciting for me to have this tool available.
Mhm.
So, got to take advantage of it.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Jolynn. Well, there's no
Absolutely.
questions in the chat at this moment, but if anyone has any after today, please feel free to reach out to us at training@smartdolphins.com. That's for any training related questions. If anyone has any other business questions or just wants to chat about their IT, please reach out to us at info@smartdolphins.com or at the telephone number on the screen. All right. Thank you for the comments in the chat there. Thanks, Terry, Ryan. Zoe, thank you so
Thank you.
much. And just here's a quick reminder about our upcoming training events. So next week we have the SharePoint Teams and Power Apps. Following week we are doing our cybersecurity critical fundamentals, and then of course an introduction to Power BI the following week. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Jolynn. I hope
You're
everyone has a
welcome.
wonderful afternoon, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you.